Are you ready for our bullish talk show? We got guests for days, all queuing in a row. The biggest names in the DeFi space. Black, white and yellow, guests from every race. So hands off your dick, it's now you're in love. We're talking crypto daily with a big pump up. Big duck energy, let's make banks fast. Come chill with us here on the Pondcast.
Yo, what's going on, you mother duckers out there? Thanks for tuning in to another Doug the Duck Pondcast. Today we have a very special guest, one of the biggest Bitcoin maxis in the space. His name is Dinny. He has a company called Bitcoin with Dinny, where he helps onboard people into the crypto space and teach people how to also become Bitcoin maxis, much like Michael Saylor. Dinny, thanks for coming on to the podcast here today, man.
Sabo, happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Pretty amazing stuff. What we've been seeing just in like the last 24 to 48 hours as a Bitcoin maxi yourself. Would you say you're surprised to see Bitcoin sitting at 100K?
I'm not. I told people Santi was bringing 100K Bitcoin a year ago, and they called me a raving lunatic. And it's almost like the kids have found the presents hidden up in the attic because we got 100K Bitcoin and Santi's not even due for like 20 days. I'm not sure if you guys even know what Santi is, but we celebrate Christmas in Ireland on the 25th of December.
Okay. Oh, this is beautiful. Okay, so I had never heard of Santi. Is that like another word for Santa?
Correct. It'd be like Father Christmas. Sorry. Father
Christmas. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm US based, man, so I'm all about the Christmas and stuff. December 25th coming up. It's a lot of the other ducks in the pond. They're from across the pond, if you will, as well. But not as I'm coming to find, it seems like it's only the US and UK people that really celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, man. So you've been calling this for a while, but I mean, has it been just in the last year or here's a better question for you. When did you buy your first Bitcoin?
Good question. I got into Bitcoin in 2019 and I really started to take it seriously in 2020, just before the halving. And I started going down the rabbit hole. I suppose my claim to fame is I figured it out before Michael Saylor. He's a pretty smart dude. But in terms of Bitcoiners, a lot of people figured this out. Bitcoin, an OG Bitcoiner just sent me a video today of Bitcoin priced at 150K and he recorded it off a live news article and he was just laughing saying, mainstream still don't get this thing. So yeah, unfortunately I wasn't smart enough to figure it out super early, but I don't think it matters what price you get in at Bitcoin. It really matters, do you understand it and how long you're prepared to hold it?
Well, at the end of the day, if you're a person who listens to Michael Saylor, Bitcoin is the scarcest, digital space, I guess, the digital, like, how does he put it? He calls it the scarcest property in the world, digital property, right? And when you consider it from that standpoint, like you said, Denny, it doesn't matter when you get in, it's about how much you own, right?
Yeah, it's just about, I think that once you figure out Bitcoin, you really understand it. The holding time comes that, Bitcoiners never want to sell their Bitcoin. Never. Because you get into Bitcoin to get out of the fiat system. So to sell Bitcoin, something that's going up forever, for fiat, it's just a bad trade because you're selling something that's going up in purchasing power for something that's going down in purchasing power. The whole problem is when you own fiat, you get poor because central banks around the world continue to print money. And we all have to work for money. We have to go and exchange our time for it. And they just push a button and they make our cost of living increase. And then we blame it on each other. The greedy businessman, the greedy business, whatever. And Bitcoin solves that problem. It solves it for anyone who's prepared to do the work in it. It solves it for anyone who's prepared to use it as their saving vehicle. And that's why I love Bitcoin, because it's not a trade. It's just something that you own. It's like, I know Saylor calls it like Manhattan. I just would describe it as it's just like beachfront property, or let's say it's like the main street in your city, whatever it is. Like that's prime real estate. The right time to sell that. If your kids inherit it and then they go and sell it, even if they sell it for 10 million, it's still a bad idea because it's going to be worth 20 million in a few years and then 100 million. So you just keep the property and you leverage the property, and that's sort of the Bitcoin game.
You make a great point, man. I think Michael Saylor was on Fox News the other day and he was talking about eventually Bitcoin being upwards of a $40 trillion asset, which would put it close to, no, it was a 40 trillion or 140 trillion by the time 2045 runs around, which for a lot of us people who are young in the industry, 2045, 20 years out from now, that's still below our retirement age. So the opportunity to buy Bitcoin at 150,000 with the prospect to it essentially of the prospect for it to essentially go to 15 million, which is essentially what is that that's 100x in and of itself on Bitcoin. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find any real world asset that's going to provide you that type of return, right?
Yeah, there's nothing legitimate that will ever find that returns. Us, from being in the crypto space, we sort of get immune, and we think that things need to go up like this. But everyone in traditional finance looks at Bitcoin and calls it absolutely insane, the returns on Bitcoin, because it does 50% a year. Since 2020, and we've been through the worst Bitcoin crash. That includes that, and it's still compound annual returns of 50%. That's telephone numbers. That's turning 5K into 7 figures in a decade. And if people are young and they're watching or tuned in, like, please God, you got a lot of decades in front of you.
Well, for a lot of our listeners, they're most likely people that have been in the crypto space and they understand Bitcoin, right? Or at least to some extent, they understand Bitcoin. Maybe they're just shitcoiners that are looking for a quick X. But you said a little bit earlier, some people never want to sell their Bitcoin and they want to hold their Bitcoin forever. Now, I know that you're saying that kind of in lieu of fiat system, but looking at some of the metrics and the graphs over the last week or so, we've started to see a very significant drop in Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance has gone down pretty dramatically just over the last week or so as people gear up for alt season. And of course, the mantra is now, I'm a big TA guy. I think the cycle top for Bitcoin is going to be right around $200,000 to $250,000 this cycle. I'm definitely bullish for the prospect of $1 million in future cycles. But unless, of course, we get a super cycle where the shit just doesn't stop and U.S. is buying so much that we see what we see with gold, where we see 10 to 15 years of perpetual upness after the gold ETFs launched. But what are your thought processes on people selling Bitcoin in lieu of alts, such as Ethereum or Link or Uni or even SWI is having a huge resurgence right now and is seeing astronomical gains as compared. Meme coins are seeing astronomical gains compared to Bitcoin. Are you just a Bitcoin maxi, or are you a big proponent of crypto in general?
Yeah, I think people can do what they want with their own money. Sort of what I try and help people to understand is that price in Bitcoin, everything's falling in value. Even altcoins, although they have little pops where they go off and they outperform, but generally it's only the professional traders who know when to get in and get out at the right times. And just from my experience, I've trained well over 1,000 people now in person at our workshops, at our events. And everyone got caught in altcoins in 2021. And, they're all hardened. Everyone, I think, becomes more Bitcoin maxi the older they get. Some people have an edge, and it's like, some people will make money in alts, like, some people will win at everything, but the majority lose. So to me, I stick with Bitcoin. I just stay humble, stack sats. It works out well. I know it's Bitcoin's money that's programmed to go up in value. But I'm not going to fault anyone if they want to go and outperform Bitcoin. Have at it, and if they can do it, fair play to them.
So you've been buying Bitcoin since 2019. So I'm assuming you were buying Bitcoin maybe around $3,000 to $5,000 range. No?
Yeah, from there and upwards.
Up there and upwards. The Michael Saylor idea. You can never have enough. Just dollar cost average in, right?
Yeah. I'm proud to say I bought some Bitcoin at 100K. I actually waited until it was 100K just to say I got some.
I like that, man. So let me ask you this. For some, I guess, would you say that most of your transactions on a daily basis are used through Bitcoin? Are you that much of a Bitcoin maxi that you are managing your day-to-day expenses using Bitcoin?
Hell no. Like, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been someone with a net worth of zero. I've built and scaled and sold many businesses. I hit my financial retirement goal under 40 without ever selling Bitcoin or using Bitcoin to do that. So to me, Bitcoin is an asset. It's a vehicle. It's the highest performing investment vehicle that I can find, that I'd classify as an investment vehicle that I'm going to put my wealth in, that I can put a decent portion of my net worth in. It's not like a lotto ticket or a seriously high risk speculative thing, so I can actually put a decent percentage of my savings in it. So for me, I don't sell Bitcoin. I don't use Bitcoin. I use the euro. We've got the euro here. The euro goes down in purchasing power. So I sell euros. Like I use euros. I spend euros. And to me, Bitcoin is just a savings vehicle. I save in Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense for me to pay for things in Bitcoin because in my country, it's a taxable event. So it just, things get very expensive when you pay for them in Bitcoin, especially when the thing keeps going up in purchasing power so much.
Interesting. Okay, so you're a buy and hold forever, never sell your Bitcoin, but of course you're still managing your daily expenses in euro.
Correct.
And it sounds to me like, the teachings and learnings that you do through your business, Bitcoin with Dinny, those really have just started, probably like what, in the last 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, correct. We're running like 4 years, probably in our 5th year.
Okay, 5th year. How many people do you have working with you in your company?
3, 4, 5, 6, I guess now at the moment.
Wow, that's amazing. And you said before that you've had other successful businesses, so most of your wealth, your retirement wealth, hasn't necessarily come from your most recent business or your investment in Bitcoin, right?
No, I've just been an entrepreneur, just in the hard way.
The school of hard knocks. What kind of business you ran?
But I have, at the moment, I have 5 businesses. What have I got? I've got fitness business, I've got events business, I've got nutrition business, I've got Bitcoin business, and I'm also consulting for another Bitcoin business. So I guess it's 4 businesses. For me, it was
that much going on. How do you keep it all together?
Easy, man. It's like the slogan of Bitcoin with Dinny is retire early, but the irony is that once people get money and they have enough money to fulfill everything they want to do, the last thing most people do is they retire, because you just become an alcoholic when you retire. You've got to be doing stuff. So I enjoy work. I love work. All of my products help people. They're all things I'm super passionate about. So I stay busy. I enjoy what I do, and every business I've ever built in my life has been around things I'm super passionate about. And I guess that's one of the reasons why they've been successful to date.
I grew up the son of an entrepreneur as well, and my father's got more money than he knows what to do with it, and the only reason he runs businesses anymore is just because he's fun. It's exciting. It gets him going at the end of the day. Like, he doesn't need the money factor anymore. He has plenty of what he has, but the quickest way to a grave is, like you said, to go find a beachfront property and sit and drink yourself to death every day.
Yeah, you can do it for a while. Like, I tried that, but none of my friends are retired in their 40s, so like there's literally no one to hang around with except people who are a couple of decades older than you.
And of course, they're asking you, how'd you do it, Dinny?
Yeah, man. But I guess I think a lot of the principles I learned through entrepreneurship, like I was a gold investor before I was a Bitcoiner, and it was like, as soon as I gave Bitcoin to work, it was like, holy shit, how did I miss this? Why was I so dumb? I was so busy building business and thinking, I'm quite focused, so I don't get distracted by things generally. But as soon as I stepped into the Bitcoin rabbit hole, read the Bitcoin standard, I was like, oh, you dumbass, like this, I've been early to trends. Let's say how I scaled a lot of my business was I recognized social media in the early days, and I recognized building a personal brand. And, we're talking 10 years ago, there was an app called Periscope that you could go live on before you could go live on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or any of these things. And I used to go live on that every day. And like, my friends would say, what the hell are you doing? Like, showing us what you have for your lunch and everything. This is when like nobody done it. I'm like, because every other business is spending thousands to put banners up at bus stops. And I'm literally getting 100 times the views, and I'm doing it for free. So I just used my brand on social media to scale my business. And that was super early. And, Bitcoin, although a lot of Bitcoin people might think it's late, it's still super early, because if you go to a party and you ask, obviously you go to a crypto party, but if you go to a regular folks party and you go like, how many people here are building a Bitcoin pension? It's like they'll be like looking at you as if you're 50 heads going Bitcoin. It's like this.
What the fuck did he just say?
It's not like that digital era. You know, like if you're in crypto, you're like, oh, Bitcoin's old and slow, and yeah, we trust Bitcoin. But like to normal people, normies who are the majority of the whole world, they're like, they don't even understand Bitcoin. They don't even, they haven't even gone near Bitcoin. Never mind crypto. They still think Bitcoin is nothing.
People who use fiat currency as a storage of value, we call them poor. I absolutely love that Mike Saylor thought process. And of course, you were into gold before you were into Bitcoin. So in some regards, you have always been a huge skeptic of the fiat system. What drove you to that? Was it similar type scenarios in the 08, 09 recessions?
It was that I've had a dislike for traditional finance, and that comes from, and I'll tell you the story. I was in my early 20s. I had a will to become a wealthy person. I was living in a trailer, which is a caravan, or I think you guys would call it a trailer. And I had a net worth of zero. I was struggling on trying to launch a business. And I was like, okay, every month I can put aside 30 euros. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ring up these financial advisors. I'm not sure if that's what you guys call them, but it'd be like a money manager type person.
Yep.
So I rang up a money manager in a town close to me. And I said, because I knew I'd read all the books. I've been reading books on finance and creating wealth all my life. So I was like, you have to invest. You've got to invest. You've got to start somewhere, Dinny. So I was like, okay, I can put away 30 quid a month. And I rang up this guy and he literally laughed me off the phone when I told him how little I had. And I was just like, fuck that. If I can curse, sorry if I can't on the podcast.
I've had the same experience with a large financial manager, man. Like, well, I don't know what it is. It's about the young people, this stigma that they got when they come through the door with their first endeavor that they want to invest. And of course, the smart ones go to a financial manager, and the financial manager is like, what, you don't already have 250K you want to throw me to work with? Fucking leave my office now.
Yeah, so it just made me feel small, and it sort of gave me a bit of I'm like, fuck them, I'm going to get rich.
Fuck you, I could do this myself.
Yeah, and that's why I love Bitcoin, because you don't have to be rich to start in Bitcoin. Yeah, nobody can afford a full Bitcoin at the moment, but anyone you can buy any amount of Bitcoin. You can start stacking, Bitcoin with 30 quid a month, no problem. You're building a Bitcoin pension. If you're young, like, holy shit, what's that going to be worth when you're as old as me? Look at what Bitcoin's done in its first 15 years when everything mainstream was against us, and that's all rotating now behind us. So that's why I love Bitcoin, because it's for everybody. No one is left out, and it's the same rules for everyone. So even if you're a big Bitcoiner, you can't change the rules any more than someone whose dollar cost average and 30 quid a month can change the rules. It's just a fair system.
And you don't need traditional finances approval to do it.
Correct. And like, I'm not like, I understand traditional finance. I understand the incentives. I understand that most people in traditional finance, they want to do good. They're not evil people. I know when we go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, we start to see the world as, everyone's against us, it's a system and everything. But it's just the incentives are wrong. And, the incentives lead to the outcomes. And with TradFi, the incentive is that, you're not smart enough to do this. We've got to do magical things that you can't do. And lo and behold, along comes Bitcoin. It's just like, no, you can be a dumbass. And all you have to do is read a couple of books or take a couple of courses, understand it enough to a degree that one, it can't be stopped. And two, nobody can change it. And three, every 4 years, there's 50% less Bitcoin. Okay, scarcity and value are correlated. Maybe I should save some of my wealth in this thing, because for 15 years since Bitcoin launched, every single person who's saved in Bitcoin has increased their purchasing power, provided they've done it for 4 years or more. Not a single person has lost money.
You make a great point, man. I mean, at the end of the day, if you held fiat for the same 4 years, you're looking at that $100 turning into $73. And it's almost criminal that these banks call savings accounts when you're losing money because they're barely offering you less than 0.25% interest every single year. And it's very criminal. And especially, I don't know what, how it necessarily works across the pond, but in the United States, the Federal Reserve used to have a requirement that banks had to keep 25% of assets available in cash on the books, readily available. But out of COVID, in order to stimulate the economy, they went to something they call zero reserve fractional banking, which means banks don't need to hold any of your money. The minute you put money in your account, they can go and use that and invest that anywhere and make money off of you. And that's where my skepticism started to come in for TradeFi, especially, coming out of COVID and seeing how much money they were printing and seeing the amount of inflation. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking like, dude, the entire country is getting fucking screwed.
Yeah, man. And a lot of these banks are sitting on unrealized losses. So the only choice to do is to continue to inflate our money, and our cost of living is going to go up. And the majority of the world, the people who run the world, the working men and women of the world, are the ones who this hurts. And all the TradFi bros, they all sit in assets. It doesn't affect them. They just get rich every time. And here, this is one of how I learned this. In 2020, I told you I have 5 businesses. In 2020 in Ireland, we had a lockdown. Okay, I was in one of my businesses when I wasn't meant to be, and the police came to say, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, how dare you go to work and try and earn money? All right. But so as a businessman, my businesses were getting crucified. As an investor, because I'm been an investor for over 10 years, I was just getting rich as shit. And I was just thinking, like, look at this. The working man, the Dinny who works and runs business and is productive and hires people, is going through hell. The Dinny who's a rent seeker and just understands how the financial system works, is getting rich as shit by doing nothing. What a load of bullshit. Holy shit. Thank God there's Bitcoin. I've got to teach people about this.
I think it's in America. I think that we're sitting in probably one of the biggest speculative bubbles since the 2001, bubble crash of the .com. We're in this weird COVID AI bubble where everything is sitting on inflated prices. All of our companies are sitting at astronomical price to sales and price to earnings ratios. It is an absolute bubble waiting to happen. And and I don't know if you know a lot about what's happening in America, but we have a lot of commercial real estate fallout because people have not gone back to their businesses and stuff, and have not reestablished working in the offices. So I think commercial mortgage-backed securities for offices, I just saw yesterday in America, have got up to 10% delinquency for offices.
Okay.
Which means that like basically 10% of all loans are delinquent or not getting paid for commercial real estate mortgage-backed securities. And in 0809, it only took 6 to 8% for the entire market to topple down. So literally the only thing that's keeping us afloat right now is the fact that our government is printing upwards of $1.5 trillion in budget deficit to stimulate our economy. And it's not sustainable. Our debt is skyrocketing.
Yeah, it's probably the same here, man. You're probably in a better shape, like, because the dollar is the strongest currency in the world. We're in the euro, so we just do whatever Germany tells us to do. And you know what Germany done there a couple of months ago? They sold like 50,000 bitcoins, and
did they sold it at an average of like 50 to 60,000. Do you think they're kicking themselves now?
Yeah, and they're the ones who are making the decisions for us. Like, we had a conversation with this in my community today, and I don't know. It might have been pretty hostile, but I was just like, government is the most inefficient organization on the planet. Like, whatever they do is generally the worst possible thing you can do at the worst possible time. And because that's their job, is to grow. It's a self-feeding monster. It's only to get bigger. And the bigger it gets, the worse the people's lives who are under it get. The less freedom they have, the less productivity they have, the less incentives they have. And
higher taxes they have to feed the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in a sticky scenario right now where just anything that's stimulated by the government ultimately leads to higher costs. They've got higher management costs, less efficiency, and as far as contractors goes, if they hear that the government is involved, their prices get jacked up 30 to 50% as compared to a typical open market.
Yeah, man, I joke, like, we get like road workers on the road, and if it's private sector, the job is done. If it's the local council, they're back every 2 months because they don't fix it properly. The leak is back, the leak is back, the leak is back. It's just like, if you want stuff done, definitely don't get the government to do it, but whatever. You can't change it. All you can do is protect yourself. All you can do is own something they can't print.
And that's the Bitcoin theory, right? And that's what I feel like, and I'm sure you get this every day because, here in America, probably less than 1% of the population understands Bitcoin, understands the scarcity principle. Supply and demand is one of the age-old conversations and things that we are taught within simple economics. As demand goes down, price action and price demand goes up. So, just understanding that scarcity principle of Bitcoin makes it a no-brainer to buy and hold.
Scarcity is everything, because it's the only thing that matters. Me as an entrepreneur, all you're trying to do is manufacture scarcity. You're just trying to do something that someone else isn't doing, or do it better than someone else isn't doing, and that's where value comes from. And and a simple analogy that I use to explain that to people is, and this is just like a little Dinny world, so it can't happen in the real world, but it works to explain, help people understand the value of Bitcoin. Let's say in your city, there's 12 barbershops, and they're all turning over. They're cutting people's hair every day, and they're earning some money. But let's say I own one of them, and I decide, you know what? I'm not having this. I'm going to visit 6 of those barbershops with my shotgun and tell them if they cut another head of hair, they're goners. Okay? So I do that. The very next day, my business is more valuable. Why? Because 50% of the barbershops in my city are gone. So I've got more people, I have more customers. And this is what happens with Bitcoin. The supply of it earlier this year went from 12 Bitcoin every 10 minutes to 6 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. Okay? And what happened? Lo and behold, the shelves get empty. There's some Bitcoin sitting on shelves. Once they start running out, the price has to recalibrate to the new scarcity. And this happens every 4 years for the rest of all our lives. So everyone who's listening to this, every 4 years, the supply of Bitcoin gets cut by 50%. The market has to reprice it. That's what we call it, money that's programmed to go up in value over time, because programmed to become scarcer over time. Every other form of money that we have does the opposite. It's programmed to become more abundant over time, and that's why the cost of living increases.
Much like real estate is scarce, right? You buy and you hold real estate because there isn't as widely available good real estate out in the market. So, that's an obvious no-brainer. We are seeing now some of the lowest supplies of Bitcoin on exchange in history, and it's only getting lower. And a big reason that it's getting lower is because we're seeing anywhere of 300 million to $1 billion of inflows on a daily basis by the ETFs of the United States, BlackRock, iShares. All of these different people are essentially buying ETF, and the investors that are buying these ETFs are the type of investors that buy and hold for 20 to 30 years. So this scarcity principle is only going to continue to get worse, in essence. Do you have the same thoughts about that?
Yeah, like the ETFs, there's 450 Bitcoin created per day at the moment. But like some days these things are buying 10,000 a day, just ETFs, like discounting everything China are doing, because we have a joke here on our side of the pond, and don't take offense whatsoever. But we say, like, Americans think that America is the only place in the world. But like these ETFs are buying up, like,
and it's not just the ETFs, right?
And we got to
El Salvador's buying.
What's China doing? What's El Salvador doing? What's Russia doing? What's Iran doing?
China.
Like, China. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like it's just basics, as you mentioned earlier, man. Supply and demand. There's not enough Bitcoin. The price has to keep going up because of that. There's going to be massive volatility. Whales will sell Bitcoin. It's just all part of the journey. You have to understand that Bitcoin, every time there's crashes, it's just Bitcoin becoming more decentralized. Whales sell and more people buy, and the coins are spread further across the field, and it rebuilds a base. And every time Bitcoin crashes, though, all of these market cycles, from everything I've studied, is it keeps finding a higher floor. And that's something that I pay attention to. So for me, I'm someone, I like it when the price of Bitcoin goes up, because I feel like, oh, my purchasing power is going up. But I also love it when the price of Bitcoin goes down, because every single month I buy Bitcoin, every month. So I'm like, I get more Bitcoin for my money, and I think like investing is like, assets are one of the, maybe just it's Bitcoin, but generally most people who don't understand investing, it's the one thing that when things are cheaper, people don't want to buy it. They only want to buy them when they're expensive. And you probably noticed that like we're going into a bull market. I got really, really busy 2 years ago. My company wasn't as busy, even though it was like the best time to be like allocating the Bitcoin, because it had a massive sell-off and it was really obvious it was going to go back, smash its all-time high, and it was an opportunity for accumulation. So I just accumulate every month. I'm detached from the price. I don't check the price. Don't mind the price. I just understand that every 4 years, 50% less of this thing is made, and every single day, every minute, people are orange pilled. They understand the value of Bitcoin and they need to own it. And it's just like how many of the world transition from using CDs to using digital music? Well, all of them. But like in the beginning, it was only a tiny percentage. Like it's a tiny percentage of the world uses Bitcoin now. And many people transitioned from, using filing cabinets to using the cloud. We just digitized storage, and now we're just digitizing store value. So in essence, we're digitizing property. If you're a property investor, we're digitizing the stock market. So rather than have to pick stocks and rotate all of them, well, Bitcoin outperforms everything there. We're digitizing gold. We're digitizing the bond market. Like Bitcoin is just all consuming beast that's literally ripping capital out of all the markets. And it's only a trickle. And that's why when people look at the price appreciation to date, they think, oh, it's so late, I missed it. But it's like, look at the amount of capital that sits in these markets of all these analog assets. And it's like saying, Blockbuster, when they laughed at Netflix when they were a startup company, and Netflix offered to sell the company for $1 million to Blockbuster, and they were like, no one's going to use that. They want to like buy their CD. They want to take it home. They want to put their DVD on their mantelpiece and let their friends have a loan of it. There's no value in something digital. We see how that played out. And this is just another case of something we're just going to dematerialize and digitize. And, the digitization doesn't care what anybody thinks about it. It just rolls through stuff regardless. And it just takes time. And, I think it's going to be a beautiful road ahead for Bitcoin and for anyone who takes the time to understand it and use it as, I don't think anyone needs to put all their net worth into Bitcoin. But as the creators of Bitcoin said like 15 years ago, it might make sense to get some in case it catches on. Well, it's certainly catching on.
Satoshi said that himself, right? In the initial days. So you said earlier, the US dollar is the currency of the world. Do you ever foresee a time where Bitcoin gets so big and is so widely adopted that it becomes the world currency?
Obviously there's a case for that, but to me, I don't need that to happen. I don't necessarily want that to happen because that transition would probably be bad for the world. Like, we want a smoother transition. But like to me, again, Bitcoin doesn't have to be, I don't have to be able to go to the shop and buy coffee with my Bitcoin. I just need to own some Bitcoin and I can borrow against it. Or if I want to, I can just sell some Bitcoin for euros and then buy coffee. So I don't really, care too much for that because all I need Bitcoin to do, like at the moment, it's gone up 50% a year. That's insane returns. Not overnight, but over decades, it retires. It can retire someone. Yeah, so it's just like, if it became the world reserve currency, happy days. Maybe not in my lifetime. Probably not. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
I mean, it doesn't need to. It doesn't need to, at least for our generation, to make money.
Correct.
So let me ask you this. So Bitcoin is one part of your portfolio. Now, obviously, Doug the Duck is a meme coin. What's your thought process on meme coins? Is it something you play around with? Is it something that you avoid? Is it something that you at least talk to the people that you are getting into crypto about? Like, what's your thoughts about it?
Yeah, my thoughts are, that's why I was like, I'll come on to the podcast. I don't really know. I don't understand it too much. Like, I get it's about having fun, but I suppose one of my worries is, well, for someone to win, other people have to lose. And whereas with Bitcoin, it's like, well, everybody wins because nobody ever wants to sell once they own it. So maybe you can explain it a little bit better to me on what memes are all about, because I'm ignorant to it. Maybe I'm too old for memes. Maybe I can't understand it, Well, I'm talking to a young guy here, so try and teach an old man.
I mean, if Bitcoin is Nvidia, meme coins are penny stocks. let's just put it that way, right? Everybody knows that they can buy Microsoft and that they could buy Nvidia, and they know that it's going to go up because it's a good company and it's going to increase for a long time over a long period of time. And for a lot of different people, 20-50% returns outbeats the average stock market return, and that is amazing to sit on and invest large sums of money over a large period of time, right? That's Bitcoin. Meme coins are the poor man's penny stocks. It allows you to essentially take $100 and have the opportunity to do 1,000% gains in a span of potentially 1 to 3 months, and basically turn $1,000 into $1 million. And the thought process there is that if you can just even hit one of those 100x coveted 100x's or 1,000x's, then you can change your life forever. And you can finally be in a financial scenario where you can acquire the type of Bitcoin that other people with better means or better or I guess, you know, an entrepreneur like yourself has taken 20 to 40 years to build. Somebody can build that in meme coins in a span of months, if you're lucky. That's the biggest thing, because it is essentially the wild, wild west. It is one of the biggest gambles within the cryptocurrency space. There is no financial guarantee of return. It's not like Bitcoin with regard to the scarcity principle, you know? So, and they're very volatile. Like, you know, meme coins will move upwards of 100 to 200% in an entire day. And it's like the majority of people that trade meme coins, they've become so numb to the thought process of 100% gain in a day that they don't even know how to take profits. Most people round trip their meme coins. So, you know, there's people that are winning in meme coins, and then there's people that are round tripping in meme coins and not necessarily making it. From my standpoint, I've always been buying Bitcoin, but I'm also very young. I'm just a little bit above my 20s. I'm in my late 20s, early 30s here. And like you, I didn't really discover Bitcoin until, you know, really the 2019, 2020 movement, when I really started to realize all of the information and all of the great things that comes with Bitcoin, the scarcity principle of blockchain and the power of blockchain in and of itself. So for me, you know, I didn't have more than $5,000 to $10,000 to really invest at that given time. You know, I'm investing in traditional stocks and thinking 5, 10, 20% returns are good, and that's what's to be expected, and that's great within the market. And then you start jumping into meme coins, and in my first couple months, you know, I was able to turn $5,000 into $100,000, and that's just not something that you can acquire with Bitcoin. Especially nowadays where, like you said, we're seeing 50% annual returns, but according to Michael Saylor, he's expecting that to go down to around 29 to 30% year over year. So in a lot of different ways, you know, meme coins are a lot like penny stocks. It's your way to get rich and get lucky, you know?
I hear you, man. Yeah. I think I know a lot of people who got rich and got lucky, but I don't know any people who enjoyed that form of life. I think the obstacle is the way is a great book. The struggle is, you got to struggle, man, for money. And that, like, I only met someone there who won the lotto, the Irish lotto, like millions, and they're back working. It's like, so to me, giving someone money doesn't solve the problem if you don't understand how to keep the money.
Well, like you said too, just because you have money, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be satisfied with retiring and going sitting on a beach and drinking yourself to death, right? That eventually it becomes, what are you doing with your life? What kind of impact are you having, right?
Sure, yeah.
So in a lot of different ways, memes are exciting for people because they can see 100% gains and 5Xs and 10Xs in a span of 24 hours. Now, whether or not they're savvy enough to learn how to take profits, that's one thing or another. But the ability to, you know, what we call ape one Solana into a coin like Doug the Duck and potentially see a 5 to 10x return in the span of a month, like, that's unheard of in financial markets. And that is where the allure of meme coins comes from. But, you know, more than just the promise, or not more than just the aspect of hoping that you have a financial return, meme coins are only as good as the communities that they're built upon, right? So, like, good meme coins have good communities. They've got avid followers. They've got people. It's really a community coin is the community investing their money into it. And as far as these coins go, they go with liquidity. You know, the market cap doesn't matter as much as liquidity matters, because somebody who has 1% of supply and might be sitting on upwards of $1 million of a meme coin that only has a $250,000 liquidity pool, only has a small hope of being able to liquidate that $1 million to try and salvage as much money as they can. And one person can kind of, let's call it, ruin the game by essentially selling too much out of a liquidity pool and causing it to drop dramatically. Because meme coins operate much different than Bitcoin, where it's, I mean, very similar in the aspect of buyer supply and demand. If you've got the coins and the increases that we see on meme coins is based on demand. When there's high volume, they're going to increase very fast. When there's high seller pressure, it's going to decrease very fast. So the people that have learned to look at volume as an indicator of performance for meme coins, those are the people that have been most successful in meme coins. So it is a speculative asset. It is the wild, wild west. There is no guaranteed return. People are not avid holders like Bitcoin. So it is a very, very wild west. In my opinion, it should really only be a part of a, maybe say, let's call it, if Bitcoin is your maximum portfolio and they say in traditional finance, you should only have 10% risk portfolio. Meme coins are your 10% risk portfolio. And the idea is if you make it big on meme coins, you better be cycling that money into good blockchains that actually have utility, what we call blue chips, or Bitcoin itself. If you can convert meme coin profit into Bitcoin, that is the true, I guess, escalon of the entire cryptocurrency market. That's what everybody hopes to do, I think.
Sounds fair.
So it's lit. I mean, so at the end of the day, it's the wild, wild west. So if you so you've never traded a meme coin in your life?
No.
Interesting. So this is great opportunity. We got to get you into Doug, right?
You gotta
download a Phantom wallet right now. Phantom is the best wallet to be able to trade Solana meme coins. And some of the best Solana meme coins are the blue chips, the ones that have avid communities, huge holder counts. Some of these coins include, Bonk, Dog with Hat, Ponke is a big one. We've seen Popcat now be worth over $1 billion. Doge and Shib are meme coins with huge holder counts that are in the multiple billions of market cap as well. These are all coins that are going to have outsized returns in this crypto market as compared to Bitcoin. But once again, I only ever recommend that somebody have a small amount of money in these returns. But very quickly, you'll find if you hit, let's call it strike gold on a good meme coin, you could quickly find yourself where your meme coin value is the same as your Bitcoin value. And that's when obviously you should be looking into distribution for the scarcest property in the world of Bitcoin. So me, I'm a person that uses meme coins to buy more blue chips and do it in a faster manner than just what I'm making from income from my normal businesses or like you said, you've got multiple businesses. So this is bringing in fiat and you're able to use that fiat money to buy Bitcoin. I have one consulting business, but otherwise I do still have a full-time job. And, most of the world does have a full-time job. And at the end of the day, with daily expenses, there's only so much that you can invest. So by creating these additional X's through meme coins, that gives you more money faster to acquire scarce assets like Bitcoin in a faster manner.
Cool, man. Well, it was awesome finding a little bit about Doug the Duck and having a chat to you today.
Well, I appreciate having an intellectual such as yourself on to just talk about Bitcoin and stuff. And what I'd really like to do is I haven't had an opportunity to ask you about Bitcoin with Dinny. And I want this to be a little bit of an advertisement for to bring in maybe some additional work into your business as well. Why don't you tell me about some of the things that you advise, your typical process, and tell me a little bit about your business of education with Bitcoin with Dinny.
Thanks, Albo. Yeah, I suppose we've got two products in Bitcoin with Dinny. One is called the Retire Early Club, and it's a year's course that I created to teach people all the steps I went from living in a caravan to retiring early. So the mindset, the investing principles, the fundamentals, and of course we layer in the Bitcoin element and understanding about creating value and saving your value. So we have that. I've got like 350 people in my Retire Early Club, and then I just do consulting. So for me, it's like if you're newer to Bitcoin, it can take you like years to actually understand it enough to go, okay, I'm actually going to deploy a meaningful amount of capital in this thing. Or you can consult with someone who understands it really well, answer all your questions, adequately, and then you feel comfortable to do it now rather than later. And because Bitcoin keeps increasing in purchasing power, the longer it takes people to learn, we have Bitcoiners have the saying, I think it's a bit unfair, but you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. And that's why I think it helps to learn faster rather than learning slow. And for me, all my life, all my successes came from investing, not just in assets, but in education and taking the shortcut. Tony Robbins taught me years ago. He said, Dinny, there's two ways to learn. You can spend a decade trying to figure something out, make all the mistakes, spend all your money, or you can pay someone who's done that and get a shortcut. So that's what
you've learned from Tony Robbins, who's, a phenomenal kind of author, coach, speaker, amazing seminars. If anybody here has never been able to listen, to Tony Robbins, when did you have the opportunity to learn from Tony Robbins?
I've just been learning from him since I was probably your age, man, or younger. Just listening to his books, his audiobooks, buying his books, reading his books. He wrote a book called Money Master the Game years ago. Huge book, struggled through it. And the TLDR, the whole book was just invest in the S&P index. Obviously, there's a better way now. It was like, I don't know, a 600-page book. I'm summarizing it there. But all my life I've invested in education. I've paid for workshops, mentorships. Alex Hormozy is a big deal in the marketing world. If anyone's ever heard of him, Alex was my coach before. It was a huge deal. I paid him a lot of money way back when to teach me, some of the skills. So to me, I'm like, if I could spend €1 to make €2, give me $1 million, and I'll spend $1 million to make $2 million.
So what's one of the first things that you do now? And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening in this space that probably struggled to go back to Thanksgiving dinner with their family and really explain Bitcoin and why it is such a scarce principle. What's one of the first things that you do to help onboard people into cryptocurrency and into Bitcoin?
I just start to teach them the principles and help them understand Bitcoin. Because once there's no one, I think, who really has a deep understanding of Bitcoin who doesn't own it and doesn't save in it. It's just people are yet to have that deep understanding of it. So I just teach them how it works, teach them about value, teach them about scarcity, teach them about all the incentives in Bitcoin, and teach them that it can't be stopped. And, you can learn that yourself by buying the Bitcoin Standard is an amazing book. I always recommend that to people, although it's a bit hard going for some people. Everything Divided by 21 Million is probably an easier book, or just get stuck into a load of Michael Saylor and you'll be well on your way to be an orange build. But I think one of the most valuable things, and you guys are leveraging it here as well, is to build communities, because people learn better together rather than trying to do stuff on your own. So what I do is, in all my businesses have always been about, you can give someone a product, but I give people, giving someone a product doesn't really matter. Will they use it? Won't they use it? If you give them a community, if you give them accountability, and if you give them some education, that's what makes the difference in anything. So I think my biggest skill is just building communities.
See, and this is why you would be a prime person for the meme coin space, because that's all these meme coins are. They're communities, building up communities. And it doesn't take much to launch your own coin, but the difficulty of meme coins starts with trying to build a community and keep community trust in, and keep people engaged within a project. And in a lot of different ways, the way we've done that is to really cater to the people that are in our community, to provide them the content that they like. And every meme coin's got their own claim to fame, if you will. And within Doug the Duck project, we do a lot of great artistry, and we do a lot of funny content. We've got a comic book series that we release on a bi-weekly basis, and then we follow that up with an animated series that's on YouTube. We actually have over 50,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel and are closing in on monetization for YouTube. We're probably one of the highest subscriber counts on YouTube and stuff right now. And really, it's you scroll across Twitter, and that's a huge kind of realm for crypto. Twitter is a huge realm for discovering cryptocurrencies, discovering meme coins, discovering communities. And we definitely like to be. We think of Doug as kind of a degenerate duck that was kind of left behind at the pond by a lot of other meme coins that have exploded. And part of the comic book series is essentially beating those other meme coins up and bringing them back to the pond to kind of hang out with us. And it's our way of reaching out to those communities and bringing them into our community. So a lot of our comic book series are really fun and funny, and the YouTube artistry and the videos that we put out are just as funny as well. And just recently, just in the last couple of weeks, I think we're going on close to 2 months now that we've been doing these podcasts. We've been bringing on some of the most prominent crypto influencers and advisors and maxis, if you will, across the entire space. But we've never truly had, let's call it a Bitcoin maxi such as yourself. Most of the people that we've brought on here have been leaders of meme coin communities or meme coin influencers. So I have to say that this podcast has been a very highly intellectual discussion with someone who doesn't even play with meme coins, who's really just a Bitcoin maxi, but hey, maybe we converted you a little bit to throw just a couple dimes at some
Yeah, who knows, man? Maybe I'll pop up. But no, it was awesome. I really appreciate the chance to come and talk a little bit about Bitcoin. Possibly not as exciting as what you guys are doing, but as you say, I suppose when you do well, you got to rotate into something that's going to serve value a little bit better. So yeah, no, I just want to thank you guys. I've got to duck out, unfortunately, and it's been an awesome chat, guys.
Yeah, man. Well, I totally appreciate having you here on the podcast, and it's been absolutely amazing having you. And I'm going to look more and more into your stuff here in the future. And I think I've been reading the comments. I think a lot of our community members and people who frequently listen to the podcast really enjoyed the conversation we had here today.
All right, boom. I look forward to hearing the podcast again. I love the name.
Thanks, man. Well, we appreciate having you. It was absolutely amazing. Bitcoin with Dinny, people. If you haven't heard of him, check him out. He's got an amazing website. If you're looking to get into deeper of this Bitcoin maxi persona ideology, he is the guy that you want to follow. So make sure that you check him out, give him a like or follow on Twitter. Bitcoin Dinny, do you got a Twitter?
At Dinny Collins on Twitter, or Bitcoin with Dinny on all the other socials. YouTube.
Oh, perfect. Go and find Dinny on Twitter. Give him a follow. Give him some love and support. This guy knows his stuff, and he's a great person to follow about how to enrich your life and how to grow your port, how to become successful in life. Dinny, it was absolutely amazing to have you here today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. And for all you other mother duckers out there, have an amazing weekend. We truly appreciate having you out here today. And go out there and have some fun and tell people about Doug the Duck. Quack, quack.
Are you ready for our bullish talk show? We got guests for days, all queuing in a row. The biggest names in the DeFi space. Black, white and yellow, guests from every race. So hands off your dick, it's now you're in love. We're talking crypto daily with a big pump duck. Big duck energy, let's make banks fast. Come chill with us here on the Pondcast.